Welcome to Building Texas with Justin McKenzie and Summer Bobarek. Sponsored by the Bernie Kendall County Economic Development Corporation and Das Greenhouse. And now, here's your host, Justin McKenzie.
Welcome to Building Texas. I'm sitting in an interesting environment overlooking the Alamo on Texas Independence Day. My name's Justin McKenzie, and you're listening to Building Texas on Bernie Radio 103.9 FM. Today, I'm sitting down with a longtime friend who I've seen the entire founding journey of and known since, you were 18?
Yeah, 18.
So, it's going on a lot of years. Welcome, Heath Hale, and we're excited to have you here representing Cowboy Auctioneers.
Yeah, thanks for having me. 20 years, to be exact.
20 years, to be exact. It's hard to remember.
Thanks for having me. Man, the Alamo, every time I get around the Alamo, you get a certain feeling. The place is awesome.
We'll get into who Heath is and who Cowboy Auctioneers is, but let's talk about, it is Texas Independence Day, and we are Building Texas, so let's talk about the event tonight and set the stage for all the events that you do, but this is a good example. Who's performing tonight other than you?
So we have William Beckman that's going to perform. I'm a huge fan of Texas musician William Beckman. And then Martina McBride, the famous singer of Independence Day, is performing on Independence Day.
Well, that's a good grab for the group. And what are they trying to accomplish tonight? What's the goal of the event on what is the 300th year of the Alamo? But help people understand why that is 300 years.
Yeah, so 300 years ago, they actually moved the fort, I believe, from Valero to Mission, and that's where it is now. That was 300 years ago, 1724. You don't hear about the 300th anniversary of many things. And tonight, what we're accomplishing is raising awareness, raising funds, and celebration of this new education center that they're launching here on the Alamo grounds. So students, children, and teachers from all over Texas, all over the country, and even all over the world with their virtual dynamics of it can learn about and celebrate what the Alamo is and stands for.
So that's really interesting. And when you talk about that, they're going to be raising money. And really, they invited Cowboy Auctioneers to come down and do it because I think you've built an incredible brand around nonprofit benefit auctioneering. And before I knew you, and I think when we first met each other, this wasn't really a thing. A lot of these galas you go to, they'll have cattle auctioneers or the local auctioneer that comes around and does it. But you and your team do it so differently. And you've really been welcomed across the state, across the country, into some really impressive rooms and raised a lot of money. So can you tell us, where's Cowboy Auctioneers today? And then where did it come from?
I grew up in an awesome family of Texas auctioneers. My father is a legendary Texas auctioneer in the auto auction industry. And so I grew up around auto auctions. I grew up around livestock and different types of auctions, mainly livestock, farm equipment, and auto auctions. I think that auto auctioneers are probably the best auctioneers out there in terms of creating the momentum and getting top dollar for what they're selling, because at the auto auctions, it's dealers. So the buyers and sellers are professional buyers and sellers. And so I grew up in this world, and you have to be 18 years old to get into those buildings. And as a 15-year-old, I was working there and learned a lot and trained under the best. So it was fun just growing up around auctions. And even at our family ranch, helping my dad host and plan and gather logistically, operationally, and then execute the sale of tractors and trailers and boats and airplanes and all kinds of implements and all that. So that was the world I grew up in. It was in 2010, someone called and said, "Hey, will you do a gala? Our auctioneer is sick." And I said, "A what?" And they said, "Well, our auctioneer's sick. We're trying to raise some money. Will you come be the auctioneer this weekend at our gala?" And I said, "What's a gala?" And she kind of laughed. And I said, "I'm from Salado, Texas." And she told me what it was. And I said, "Oh, okay, a fundraiser. Yeah, so in Salado, we'll have like a fish fry, or, we'll meet up at the church and auction off, some briskets and shotguns and cobblers." But we didn't have galas. And so I walk into this gala, and they have a goal of $40,000. It was to help a dozen children with rare and special needs to have equipment, to have services and therapies they need. We sell the first package, a bottle of wine, for $40,000, end up raising about $250,000 that night. And the lady comes to me crying and says, "Oh my goodness, we're going to be able to serve 3 times as many kids because of what you and your guys did." And I went home that night and I just told my wife, she was like, how was it? I said, man, it was unbelievable. Paradigm shift in the world of auctions. Instead of people negotiating me and trying to get a good deal and buy something for less than it's worth, all these people were giving generously and paying more than the value of the items. I was immediately hooked. And so that was 2010. And obviously now in 2024, it has been a journey that I never could have imagined.
So tell me about that journey in total, because I've seen you go from that original auction all the way up through and to big rooms at Cowboy Stadium, the Minute Maid Park. I've seen you on stages that I never imagined Heath Hale sitting on and really owning the room. And I think that's what I like about the Cowboys. And what I think really separates you all from what you do is the team around you. When you're on that stage, you've got some guys working hard out there getting the work done.
I'm humbly proud and grateful of what we've built and what we've been able to accomplish. I get to pinch myself, right, very often whenever I'm backstage or on stage or preparing for certain events and getting to work with some of the biggest names, celebrities, sports teams in the world. It's pretty cool that, you know, our gift of doing auctions and fundraising is so important and critical to their success if they are philanthropy minded. So with that being said, tonight, getting to be at the Alamo with some of the big names that are involved, it's just one of those things that I get to bring in the craft of auctioneering, the understanding of fundraising and stage presence and audience control and entertainment, that we get to make an impact for such a historic monument in Texas. You talk about the team around us. I'm very, very proud of what we built with our team because I've never seen an auction team like this. I grew up in the world of auctioneers, and I'll say about this industry, auctioneers are contractors. Our MO is always every man for himself. And so you're always competing against each other for jobs, whether it's in the auto auction industry or if you're going to bid to do a real estate auction or some sort of whatever industry it is, it's every man for himself. And I've got a group of guys. I've got 14 cowboys and a cowgirl, and then another cowgirl, Emily, who runs my company. The 16 of us, wow, we have an unbelievable team. And it's the only auction team I've ever been around where folks are really excited to be around each other and be on a team, and we don't have that every man for himself mentality. And so we always talk about the brand, and it's what I love the most about our brand is that everyone on the team respects it, and we put the charity first, and we put the people in the room and the mission and the reason we're there first, and we put ourselves last, and that's really gotten us a long ways.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Building Texas on Bernie Radio 103.9 FM. When we come back from the break, we're going to continue the conversation around how to build this team, where the charity's being impacted, and really beyond the benefit auction, where else has Heath jumped in and used his talent to make an impact? Join us after the break. This is Justin McKenzie from Building Texas. Today's segment is brought to you by Das Greenhouse. Das Greenhouse is a business incubator launched here in Bernie to serve our local community. Das Greenhouse is a place where you can come to grow your idea. Our goal is to make Bernie accessible to people who are looking to grow a business, expand a business, or learn more about what's out there in their community and get involved. Visit us at dasgreenhouse.org or come visit us at 7 Upper Balcones Road, Bernie, Texas. Das Greenhouse. Welcome back to Building Texas. My name's Justin McKenzie, and you're listening to Bernie Radio 103.9 FM. So when we talk about that team and the impact that they've had, I want to go back to your founding story. You had the first auction that really hooked you on this, but then it was a journey of getting into business and building this brand. You're right to call out contractors. That's how are all hired and working in the traditional way. How did you bring that team together? How did you form the company Cowboy Auctioneers? And was there a struggle, or was it that was success and it just kept building? Or was there a lot of lessons learned early on changing the industry?
So for the first couple of years of doing these charity auctions, you know, whenever I did that first event that was so successful, Paradigm Shift, I was working for an auto auction company. And this was just a little side deal. You know, for several years, we donated our time every time, as many times as we could, to just get experience and most importantly, just to give back. This wasn't my business. I didn't need it as far as providing income for my family. But one day it clicked. And I thought, you know, instead of just showing up as Heath Hale Auctioneers, I want this to be sustainable. I want it to outlive me. I want it to be able to reproduce itself. And Heath Hale can only be in one room at a time. And if something happens to Heath, then everything is depending on him. And I've got a bunch of guys we're all Texans. 13 out of the 15 of us are second generation auctioneers. This is a group of people that I grew up around their fathers. Their father and my father have done auctions together for 40 plus years. It's just kind of the fraternity I grew up in the auction industry. You know, one day it clicked, and my thought was, let's not make this all about Heath. Let's make it all about Cowboy Auctioneer, where if I'm not on stage, that's okay. I've got a brother that is every bit as good or a better auctioneer than I am. I've got buddies that, I mean, I'm not the best auctioneer in the world, but I've got buddies that are. And so what I thought was, you know, we could actually do more than one event in a night. We could grow this thing up to where we're doing 2 events, 3 events in a night. And that's where we are now. And so it was complicated to build a team that understood, that had the mentality that wasn't every man for himself, because none of us had been trained that way. So those first couple of years, what I did was I just only invited the guys that were my closest friends, but they were also the top auctioneers in the world to come work for me. And we made it fun. Obviously, in the world of contractors, you can still all be friends. And so what we did was we're like, hey, look, there's a charity. There's kids with cancer. There's a child that's drowned. There's these women that have been abused. Whatever the cause may be, let's just support that cause and put that first. And let's all be bros and go hang out and raise a bunch of money and do what we're best at tonight. And that made it so fun. And then all of a sudden, the other top hands around the country wanted to be a part of it as well. And those were all part of my network growing up in the world, the industry of auctioneering. And so now I mean this and biasedly, but I think a lot of people say it unbiasedly. The guys and gals I have on my team, bar none, they are the top auction professionals in the entire country.
And more than you just saying that, a lot of them have hardware to prove it. They have world champion auctioneer titles and have competed. And for those that don't know, these things happen. It's a competitive industry in that way. How many events did y'all do in 2023?
I believe we did 87 events in 2023. I would say probably 60 of those were in Texas, Austin, where we're based out of, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Midland, and then, you know, we go from coast to coast. And 2023 was an incredible year. It was the first time that we ever eclipsed raising $50 million in one year. It was awesome.
That's an incredible amount of money to think about. 87 events, and you're doing over 50 million in those 87 events. What a testament to those rooms and the people that are raising the paddles and really digging in and being involved in the reason they're at the galas. And I think that's an interesting point, because a lot of people go to galas. It's fun to dress up. It's fun to see your friends. But the ones that show up to spend money and move the mission are my favorite ones to watch.
Yeah, I always say some people look at auctioneers as magicians, and we're not that. We can't force people to bid and give. The organization has to do a really, really good job of getting the right people there that care about, are invested in their mission, that have the ability to make a financial impact. And then they also have to do a good job of telling their story. And so what we say the formula for success for the nonprofit is, hey, look, if you've got wealthy people with intentions to support your mission financially, and you're able to tell your story well, we will come raise you more money than you ever thought you could raise. And so I just did the math. That's about $575,000 per night. And that's just live auction only, Justin. So the $50 million was 87 live auctions. That doesn't count their sponsorships and their raffles and their silent auctions and their table sales. It's none of that. It's just the live auction portion. You know, some are much bigger than that and some are much smaller than that. I mean, there was a night we raised $8 million, and there's plenty of nights where we do auctions that are raising $150,000, $250,000. And we love those just as much. I want to be clear, you know, we're talking about some big stuff, big names, celebrities, big stages, and, you know, stadiums and all that. But I want people to know that our heart is for the mission. And so it doesn't matter if you have the NFL quarterback or the movie star on stage or not. That's not why we do what we do. We love a great cause, a great mission that is lifting up the vulnerable, the marginalized, the hungry, the people in our community and communities across Texas and across America that have a real need. We love that we get to be the centerpiece of someone with resources and someone with a need, and really execute, kind of funnel and make sure that giving takes place.
It's been fun to watch, and I think Lake Travis was probably the first place that I picked my head up and said, wow, you're really moving. And it was a big painting that you sold, did really well on. And I've known you for a long time, so I saw you onto this journey. And I watched it from afar, but then to hear where you were moving the mission and how you were really making a difference. And to that end, you started your own foundation, started really some very missional work.
Yeah, so 2015, my wife Tabitha and I, we were exposed to the idea of gospel poverty. We knew there were people that chose not to, follow Jesus, but we didn't realize that there were people that didn't have access to that. They don't know someone that knows someone that knows someone that's heard about Christ. And so we thought maybe we were supposed to be goers and move to the front lines of missions, and God revealed that he had given us talents and abilities as event planners and fundraisers to make an impact and send resources. And so when we heard that, less than 1 penny of every dollar given to missions goes to what is called an unreached people group, meaning a group where there's no Christians and no church and no Bible in that community, our hearts were broken. And so we said, hey, well, we know how to have an event. And so we've had Light the World is our annual Christmas event. We've had 7 of them. In those 7 nights, we've been able to deploy over $10 million to the front lines of gospel poverty. And so that organization is called Bless, and the website's BLESS.world. And you can go to bless.world and learn about gospel poverty. And we've got a portfolio of unreached people groups that stretch across the 1040 window, North Africa, the Middle East, all the way to East Asia. And there's right now 22 and counting people groups that a lot of them didn't have an alphabet, didn't have a written language. It was just a verbal community. And so you've got to have folks that come in there and that are committed to 10 plus years long term. And all of our projects are 10 plus years. We have budgets of what it's going to learn for them to move into the tribe, most of the time start a business, get access to that community where typically it's hostile against Christianity. And they learn the language, create an alphabet, translate at least the New Testament. And the hope is to plant a reproducing, disciple-making church that is led by indigenous, theologically sound believers. Man, that's been a crazy ride, too. That's taken us to all over Asia, the Middle East, Africa. We just went to Nepal and trekked in the Himalayas for 5 days, 6 different villages. I think that my wife and I were some of the first white people they had ever seen. We have indigenous workers that we're supporting in that particular mission. And so it was just, wow, what a journey. 8th tallest mountain in the world.
I love it. All of that comes together. And it's not surprising because I've also seen you try your hand at radio for a little while. It was a fun little contest. You've never been afraid to jump in and see what's possible, take the adventure, and then it always seems to turn out well for you. It's been an interesting journey to watch you launch Bless and go to those events and see the room. And that happens at ACL Moody Theater, and the room is people your neighbors that are in there, and they're just giving. That was also where I discovered Paddles Up as an auction item. And to me, that is a testament to how you tell the story on stage and how you compel people to give to the missions. I go to plenty of other events where you're not the auctioneer. And it is about trying to raise money. It's trying to really, you don't talk about the money as much as you are really skilled and well-versed on the organization that has brought you in to tell their story and to make it something that gets their audience excited. That means you work with them long in advance, or your team works with them well in advance of the event to make sure the right people are in the room, the right mindset's coming into the room, and the impact can be made.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. While we do the auction, I do not at all just consider us auctioneers. We are a team of full-service fundraising professionals that consult and strategize with nonprofits. And Justin, we don't do events that we're not passionate about. We want to make sure that when we stand on stage, people don't see us as the auctioneer. We don't see ourselves as a vendor. We see ourselves as an extension of the mission, an extension of the team that runs that nonprofit organization, an extension of what we're raising financial support for that night. And so we don't want people to see us as the auctioneer. We want people to see us as, and it happens every time. It happened last night. Guy walks up to me and says, "You make this so personal. You make me feel like you know everything about this nonprofit and you've experienced that nonprofit." And I said, "Well, sir, I visited this nonprofit. I've spent time on their website. I know who they serve. I know why they do it. I know what they provide." And he said, "But you also know the people in the room." It's interesting. We go to markets all over the country, whether we're in, Dallas or Denver or, Lafayette, Louisiana, or anywhere in between, I try to get there early, meet the people. You can tell by the smile on people's faces who are invested, who want to be there. You meet the board members, you meet the committee members, you meet the chairs, you meet the big sponsors. And it's just, to me, I am addicted to people that want to be generous and make a positive impact. And so I go meet all the people when I get there. And, my team, typically, if people hire us, they typically hire us minimum 6, normally 12 months in advance. And over those 12 months, we learn everything we can about their organization. The first question we ask is, what are your goals? And when they tell us what their goals are and they tell us what their event is going to accomplish and who's going to be there, and we learn about the people in the room and the why, then we come up with a bespoke approach, a custom fundraising strategy. It's a ton of effort to plan an unsuccessful event. It's no more effort to plan a home run event. It's just better strategy. And so what we understand is, who do you have on your board, your committee, someone that wants to give and be a part of this night? And then we help harness those resources. And we always say, we're going to get your thinking up. If you work for Coca-Cola, we could obviously have you donate Coca-Cola for a year. But maybe Coca-Cola is the main sponsor of the World Cup or the national championship, and we can talk about what it's like to be down on that field meeting players because your person works for Coca-Cola. And so one more example, if they're big with the Houston Astros, well, that's great to get 4 tickets to a game. But what is it like if we do dinner for 12 on home plate with live music and a private chef? It's just one package brings 5,000, one package brings 50,000. And so that's our goal, is to get people's thinking up, and we're ultra passionate about the cause. And so we like to walk alongside the nonprofit, become a part of their organization, and then that we represent that on stage, and it bleeds into all the Cowboys. And so now, tonight at the Alamo, I'm at least a 5th generation Texan. I think it's 7, but I called my great uncle today, and he couldn't remember where his grandparents were born. He's 92, so I didn't blame him. And so I've got a little research to do, but I'm so proud of this. And, while we have this big event going on, we also have a couple of other events going on tonight. I got 3 teams in 3 different ballrooms in 3 different cities, and we're raising money for 3 separate causes and hopefully raise several $1 million tonight.
Well, the last topic I'll lean into is you level up a market. So I've seen what you've done in Austin, Texas, really changing how galas are approached. And even if they go with a different team and a different company to come in and do the auction, that bar's been set. And it's a lot of fun to see. San Antonio is an example. Coming into San Antonio, it wasn't the same market. But now, 3-5 years later in this market, you're seeing more business. You're leveling up the rooms because the donors know what to expect when the Cowboys show up. And they will put their paddles up in a different way because it's as much entertainment as it is missional. And then you really just dig down into it. And so it's been fun to watch and fun to talk about, fun to sit in the back and see, wow, what am I really learning about the organization? It's not just the items. But to your point, the items make a big difference. You want to get the value. That consulting and coaching, leveling up of all nonprofits that you serve is really interesting to hear.
I appreciate you saying that. When we started this, we knew in 2010, we knew how to do auctions. And then after a few years of watching the organizations not develop certain things that was making them leave money on the table, I went all in on learning everything I could about the strategy of fundraising, the strategy of communication to mass audiences, the strategy of an appeal and pulling heartstrings. And I love how you say the bar has been set. We kind of laugh. If there's ever an event that we did one year and we don't get it the next year for whatever reason, maybe it's because of our calendar or because they choose to work with someone else, we do know the bar's been set. And still to this day, I'm not afraid to say, since 2010, 14 years, there's not been one event that we've ever done where we don't own the all-time record. And whenever we lose that event, we still own the all-time record. And I know that sounds boastful. I'm a very humble person, but I'm also very competitive. And I know this is just a testament to Emily, Rachel, the folks on my team planning, doing the consulting on the back end, and then the Cowboys that show up to the event.
Well, Heath Hale, thank you so much for joining us today on a busy day, looking over the Alamo, going into the 300-year event at the Alamo for 1724. And it's just a pleasure. It's been a privilege to watch you grow from that young auto auctioneer into really an impactful leader in the nonprofit space that's helping everyone find more value in what they do.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm humbled to be on. I'm grateful. It's exciting. I love what you're doing with building Texas. And for me, as a many generation Texan, I'm always humbled to get to stand on a stage and always humbled to get to represent a mission and raise money for a great cause. And also to get to do what we get to do in so many markets around the country. But thank you. I'm so proud of this great state. My daughters have a bright future ahead. And because of what you're doing with Building Texans, man, keep doing what you're doing. And y'all, get on and follow this page and share and do everything you can in order to get this content out to more people, because inevitably it's helping a lot of folks that have a big, bright idea or a lot of folks that have a dream, and they need to realize they just need to chase it. And I'm grateful, Justin, that you're providing resources for them to accomplish those dreams.
Well, thank you, Heath. Let's go have some fun with this event, and thank you for the way that you're building Texas. This is Justin McKenzie from Building Texas. Today's segment is brought to you by Das Greenhouse. Das Greenhouse is a business incubator launched here in Boerne to serve our local community. Das Greenhouse is a place where you can come to grow your idea. Our goal is to make Boerne accessible to people who are looking to grow a business, expand a business, or learn more about what's out there in their community and get involved. Visit us at dasgreenhouse.org or come visit us at 7 Upper Balcones Road, Boerne, Texas. Das Greenhouse.
Now let's head over to the Patrick Heath Public Library with Miss Constance for Children's Story Time. As the Patrick Heath Library is open today from 10 to 4, this is Boerne Radio.